Thank you for turning to page 121. Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to discuss what I consider to be one of the most indispensable tools that a Dungeon Master can have, and that's the DM screen. Whether I'm running D&D, Traveler, Champions, Gamma World, whatever the game is, I like a good DM screen. I want to be behind it, hiding with my notes, rolling my dice in secret, and just letting the players look at the back of it and wonder what the heck is going on. So today I'm going to take a look at the Dungeons & Dragons DM screen, its history in AD&D, and just a couple of different DM screens I've collected over the years. Okay, all right, this is what it's like to be behind the DM screen. This is what the DM has. Now, everybody has seen DM screens. And by the way, I realize that most times they're called GM screens, Game Master screens, or something like that. But to me, they're DM screens. I started with AD&D, and AD&D, you were the Dungeon Master. These are DM screens. So this has pretty much everything that the Dungeon Master is going to need to run the game. It's got the combat matrix tables for the monsters and the characters. It's got the assassination table, which ends up being more useful than you'd think. Saving throws for magical items. Saving throws for creatures. Saving throws for monsters. Over here, turning undead. How to throw grenade-like missiles. I guess that would be flaming oil. This particular one was published in 1979 and it's just chock full of really good information. As you're sitting behind the screen, you can easily figure out what the hit and damage, or what the hit is for the player, what number they need to hit the armor class without giving up what the armor class is. Most games I run, I don't tell what the armor class is. I will give the player characters their number, and then they'll add their pluses and figure out what they need to hit. I trust my players, but I do insist that they roll everything out in front. Not that I don't trust my players, because I actually do, but I don't know, it just feels more natural to me. So this screen was published in 79 for the AD&D game. It has info on the outer panels as well. In this case, the weapons tables, which are the damage by small, medium, or large size. Armor class tables. Rate of fire for missiles. It's available down there. And then the 4 basic food groups: the fighter, thief, magic user, and cleric tables of progression, as well as the spell tables. So this one screen really had most of what you'd need to refer to out of the books throughout the course of running a game. I still use it all the time. This guy has seen better days, unfortunately. I've had him since I started playing D&D, and as you can see, he's suffering a little wear. He comes out for special games. Most notably, he's out every year for my Halloween game, which I call Walpurgis. I did a video, in fact, it was my first video, on Walpurgis last October, and I'll be doing at least one more this year about Walpurgis, what it is, how I run it, and then I am going to run Walpurgis for my player characters this year, so I'll be doing probably a recap on how that one goes. So this was the initial one. Nice 4-fold screen. I like this one's my favorite. This one came out in about 81. It's a little smaller version. It's trifold. You get much the same information, and in fact, they narrowed down all the important information is still here. You don't have some of the missile information, but honestly, you don't need that often. You've got all the monster attacks. You've got the player character screen. You've got the cleric turning undead screen. On the back, you've still got the weapons tables, and still some pretty neat artwork. Obviously, the same artwork as the original from 79. This one, as you see, still has quite a bit of spring to it because I don't use it very much. I like this screen just fine. It's just that I never really DM'd a bunch behind this one. I was using my quad fold for a long time until one came out in 85. I'm going to show the rest of the components that came out in 81 to this, because in addition to this DM screen, you would also get, move this out of the way, this was also from 79. This went with the the first one I showed you, there's a slight mix-up on my part. This screen showed you the psionic combat and what you would need there. Now, we threw psionics out of our campaign back in about 81. I never felt psionics really fell or really worked in D&D. I thought they got around too many saving throws, protections, that sort of thing. I was never a fan. So after only about a year of playing with it, our entire group met and we voted on it and we decided psionics were gone from our game. I still love them in Spellfire, just not in D&D. There's what the outside of that one looked like. And now they came up with another one. This guy was the one from 81. As you can see, this one, I got this secondhand from a friend. This one did see a fair amount of use. He used to DM quite a bit. I had the dubious honor of being the guy that ended up with everybody else's D&D stuff as they moved away or got married. My collection is, I have bought or traded for a lot of other guys' collections, guys I used to game with, unfortunately. They moved away from the area and were quitting the game. In more than one case, they'd met a girl they were getting serious with and or marrying, and she didn't play, so they stopped playing. That's unfortunate. I got lucky. My girlfriend, who became my wife, also played and still plays in our campaign. She's been active in our campaign since we started dating. We started dating in 1981. She has characters that she started in 1981 that are still thriving in our campaign today. This is the last iteration of AD&D First Edition Dungeon Master screen. This was published in 85, and it's a little different than the others. You get some of the reaction and counter tables, some direction of attack, how many can fight around you, and that kind of stuff on here, as well as the staples. And the staples are really what you need these for. Now, this is the screen I use most times. I have since retired, largely semi-retired, my fourfold, just because I don't want it to break, tear apart. But this one is the one I use day in, day out when I'm running it at just an average D&D game. I always have a DM screen up. I always have it handy. Even if it's going to be largely role-playing, I keep my notes behind it. I roll my dice behind it. I very often will roll dice secretly, but I will also roll them out in the front. And my players know, if I need a die roll that's going to propel the story, I'm going to throw a die and pretend I made it. And they know I do that. It's DM's prerogative to cheat on a die roll. It's not a player's prerogative to cheat. And that brings me up to the next part. This, as a companion piece to this one, you got a player's reference screen. The idea behind this was the players had their own little screen. It had some easy reference, an early form of what became Thaco on the table there. The grenade missile rules reappear here as well. You get the monetary system, starting equipment, a weapon to hit, the weapon speed factor, and armor class adjustment, which we've never used. And then on the back, cleric and druid spell tables, some artwork, and then over here, MU and illusionist spell tables. This guy, as you can see by the spring he hasn't seen much use either. I never understood player characters having a screen in front of them. I do insist that all their rolls be out for everybody to see. Years ago, I had a player who would cheat on rolls now and again. He hasn't played with us in a very, very long time, but he would cheat on rolls now and again. So just to make everything equitable, I just made it a standing rule that everyone had to throw everything out in front of the DM. The DM could throw wherever he wanted to. And I am not the only DM in my group. I'm just the primary DM. Several of the other players that I game with will give me a break occasionally and let me play a game as a player character, and they'll take over the DMing chores. So we've all established that those are the core rules we're going to live with. Everybody has to throw out in front. DM throws behind the screen. So this was of mixed use to me. The player's reference screen. But I did like the Dungeon Master screen. I came across a closeout at a Toys R Us years ago where they were selling these guys, and I think it was in 86, they were selling them for $2 each. I think they had 5. I think I bought 5 of them. I have given several away to other players who we're going to DM. But I have 2 or 3 copies of this floating around, and like I said, this is my primary DM screen these days. So that's it. Just wanted to show you a little history of the DM screen in AD&D, first edition, and just show some bits of my collection. So please comment below. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe to the channel. And that's it today from page 121. Well, that closes the book on another episode of page 121. Please leave your comments below, and if you enjoyed what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.